Hey guys, Logan here, and I am here to give you my final review in my Steven Spielberg series of reviews leading up to Ready Player One coming out next weekend. I have covered at least 7 films that Steven Spielberg has directed, from Jaws to Lincoln. Just 7 films I've done reviews for in my series of Steven Spielberg reviews. And for my 8th and final review in my Steven Spielberg series of reviews is going to be for Bridge of Spies, starring Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance. This movie takes place during the Cold War, and it's about an American lawyer played by Tom Hanks being recruited to defend an arrested Soviet spy played by Mark Rylance in a court, and then help the CIA facilitate an exchange of the spy for the Soviet-captured American U-2 spy plane pilot, Francis Gary Powers. This is one of the Steven Spielberg films that I get to watch for the very first time, much like films like Jaws, War Horse, Minority Report, and any other films he had directed. And this is just one of those films that I have not seen, but finally got the chance to watch it for the first time. And what do I think about Bridge of Spies for the first time? It was really good. I really love Bridge of Spies. And this movie felt like Lincoln in some ways, because the dialogue is like the major part in this movie. This movie is pretty much a talking film like Lincoln. The only difference I see in both this film and Lincoln is that Lincoln felt like a more impactful dialogue movie that is about a real-life events about a president of the United States of America, Lincoln, and it felt more interesting and felt more compelling and very much interesting to watch, basically. With Bridge of Spies, you totally get what you get with Lincoln, except this is a Cold War thriller film. And there are certain similarities between Lincoln and this film, Bridge of Spies. And something that I thought Steven Spielberg did so well at is something that he did in Lincoln, which was making scenes that have nothing but dialogue within them feel more compelling and feel more interesting and feel more impactful. And just to clarify, this movie is based on real-life events about a Cold War between negotiations. This film is not basically a war of physicality. It's more about a war of words between both sides, dealing with negotiations over an exchange for 2 people or more. And that is another part that I thought Steven Spielberg pulled off, which was making that story line very, very interesting to watch. It was probably the most interesting part about this movie. It's the storyline with 2 people from 2 different countries being part of an exchange that Tom Hanks' character was forced to negotiate with the Russians who have held this American pilot held hostage, as well as a Russian being held by the American people who presume him to be a Russian spy. Speaking of Tom Hanks, let's talk about him. He did an outstanding job in this movie. This might be his 2nd or 3rd best performance I have seen in his entire career in acting in like most films that he's been a part in. His 2nd best performance, I would say, is in Saving Private Ryan. I talked about how he was so mesmerizing and so magnificent in Saving Private Ryan. And I could say the same thing for him in this movie. He did an outstandingly awesome job. Steven Spielberg does a really good job at showing all the dialogue scenes that are actually very compelling. This was like the 2nd film that I could remember on the top of my head that Steven Spielberg has directed where the many dialogue scenes were very compelling and very interesting. The first film I noticed was Lincoln. And when you get a Steven Spielberg film, it's most likely going to be well directed. And that's pretty easy to say that, because most of the films that he has directed could make you go like, yeah, that was well directed. Even some films that he directed that were not really good were pretty well directed. But I really cannot deny the fact that I really thought this film was well directed, and I will not take any credit away from how he made this film so well directed. If I really have to nitpick with this movie, it would be that there were certain scenes in the second act of the movie that started and ended really abruptly, particularly the interrogation scene with the American pilot being interrogated by the Russians. I felt like that scene started pretty abruptly and then ended pretty abruptly. Like there wasn't much to get into that scene, and I feel like it was unnecessary, just the way that it was shot and was handled in a short amount of time. That is my only gripe with this movie. Other than that, I basically have no other issues with the film. This film was really great, and I have loved A Bridge of Spies. Would I have watched it over Lincoln? I would say no, but I will say that I might watch this movie for once in a while, because this is not like the kind of movie that you can get to watch over and over and over and over again. It's not like that kind of film, but I do love it. I'm going to give Bridge of Spies a Gold Medal of Honor. And that, my friends, concludes my series of Steven Spielberg reviews leading up to Ready Player One, which comes out next weekend. So it's going to be really awesome to see. I cannot wait for Ready Player One to come out. I'm so excited for it. And yeah, my Steven Spielberg series has come to an end with my review for Bridge of Spies. So yeah, I would say pretty good accomplishment, I would say. Well, anyway, guys, that is my review for Bridge of Spies, starring Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance. If you guys enjoyed my review, please click the like button and comment down below to let me know what you think of this movie, Bridge of Spies. If you enjoyed what you've seen here and you want to see future videos from me, please press up there to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great week, Battle Squad, and as always, fight the good fight.